Okay, so my lesson, I'm going to do my first day lesson plan out of these 5 days. And what we're basically going over in this lesson is the learners are going to be able to describe the essential elements of the Greek city-state government that influence the development of democracy. So we're just trying to get them into the development of the democracy, so the different parts and how the democracy of the Greece was actually started. So the first thing I'm going to do for this lesson, I'm going to show them, I have the 10 sources. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show them source 1. And the source 1 is a picture of the voting tablets that they use. They use the pieces of wood, they use different things, and we're going to learn about how they voted with these. But I'm going to introduce this, and then I'm also going to introduce all the other lessons, the sources for this lesson. So this is source 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So they're going to be using these sources throughout the 5-day lessons. But for just this lesson, I'm going to, after I introduce all of the sources that they're going to be using and tell them, this is what we're going to do for the week, is we're going to go over these sources, and we're going to figure out the democracy of Greece and how it affected our democracy and how it all got started, how it's different from other countries, the way their government works. So, in talking about this, I'm going to ask the students, what did you notice in source 1? They're probably not going to know what this image is of, because at first I didn't know what it was. So I'm going to ask them, what did they notice about source 1? Does source 1 and the other sources have anything in common? And by this point, all the sources are going to be hung up, so they'll be all able to see them. And then I'm going to say, how will the resources be beneficial for your research? Because they are going to be using these, and I want them to understand why we're using these sources to help them in this lesson. So I'm going to write, the next part of it is review. So to get into this lesson, I'm going to write the vocabulary words on the board. And as I write them on the board, I'm going to get the students to write the words in their notebooks. And as they watch the video, write down key facts that they may need to have for their research. So a lot of these vocabulary words come from the video that I'm about to play, but they're going to already have them written down, and in the video they're going to be able to write down beside each word what they think it is, and then it's going to go into our actual lesson of what they're going to be doing with these vocabulary words. Because if they're reading about all these different, democracy, assembly, Greece, council, the courts, the jury, Athens, Athenian democracy, representative democracy, constitutional, monarchy, and just monarchy, then they're not gonna know what these words mean. So the base of my unit lesson, they have to know what these words mean before we can move on. So that's what my first day lesson is all about, is really getting these words down so they understand them. So they're gonna watch this little video after they write down the words. I'm gonna play it for you.
Tractor Supply's Black Friday sale is happening now. Enjoy savings on thousands of items like
Democracy. In the 6th century BC, the Athenians developed a new type of government called a democracy, which means strength of the people. Woo! The new government had 3 parts. The assembly included every free-born male citizen. Around 30,000 men. They gathered together to discuss and vote for the city's laws. They also elected certain government officials by writing the name of their chosen candidate on a piece of wood or stone. I don't know. The council, or boule, was made up of 500 male citizens. Wow. They were selected once a year using a lottery system. Every region had a representative on the council. the council met most days to discuss the daily running of the city-state. The court held trials when someone had committed a crime. There was no judge, only a jury. The smallest court had 201 jury members to prevent ties, and the largest had 6,000. The jury were also chosen once a year using a lottery system.
Oh no!
Athens was one of the most influential and powerful city-states, so it's not surprising that more than 50 other Greek city-states followed their lead and also attempted to set up democratic governments, some more successfully than others. Athenian democracy is an example of direct democracy. Every citizen assembled to pass laws and make decisions. Today, it is more practical for a country or state to have a representative democracy, where representatives are elected to make laws and decisions on behalf of the people. Though this sounds a lot like the way the British government works, the United Kingdom is actually a constitutional monarchy because our head of state is the king or queen.
Okay, so that's the video that they will watch. And you could see that it had a lot of different, all the words in it that they wrote down. And so they'll be responsible for having written those words down, because we are going to use them in just a few minutes. So that brings us into the next part of the lesson. So what I would do is the learner's going to begin. I'm going to begin to explain the instructions for the dictionary dig activity and pass out the student sheet and the dictionaries. So for this activity that they're going to have a paper, and on the paper, the student sheet is going to have, it's going to have a word block in the middle, and that's where they're going to put their word. They're going to say what type of word it is, the definition of the word, the synonym for it and the antonym for it, and they're going to find this using the dictionaries. So, the learners are going to break into groups of 4 and define the key vocabulary words that they just written down from the video. And they're going to use the words they were given for their group and use the student sheet and look the words up in the dictionary. They're not going to define all of these words on their student sheet because that would take a lot of time. So all the 4 groups, I think there was 11 words. So all the 4 groups would split each of those words. So the 4 groups would each get 2 for sure. And then I would give 2 other groups 1. 3 of the other groups 1 extra one. So they would define them, and then after they define, as they're defining these words, I'm going to walk around the room and make sure that they are doing everything right, they define the words correctly, and making sure it's right. And so after I realize they're right, I'm going to we're going to put the sheets on the board, and we're going to go over each definition with their student sheets. And we're going to keep those up probably throughout the whole week. I'm going to leave them on my bulletin board. So after I put them up, the students will be required to either go to the board or just watch as I go over. And they're going to be responsible for writing the words down in their notebook. And that is what they're going to be studying. So they're not going to be studying the student sheets that they worked on together in the groups. They're going to be studying their own vocabulary words that they wrote down in their own notebook. So they will have to be responsible for that. So to close this lesson out, I'm going to make the students go back to their desk and research ancient Greek democracy, because they need a lot of information to do this unit. And so I'm going to want them to do it individually and find their own information for it, because every other person is going to have to find different information. And it's going to be good when we all put all the information together. So they're going to have a wide variety of different things about Greek democracy that they've gotten from each individual. So I'm going to ask them to find 2 sources that they can use to show how they used to vote and why. And so when they're doing that, I'm going to say, what made you pick these 2 resources? Why do you think they're an important part of your research? So they're going to also use my sources that I have, and then they're going to pick 2 of their own for each individual student. So that is going to be a lot of resources for the students to use to get to the end of the lesson point at the end of the week, so they'll have a wide variety to know about ancient Greece. And that is going to be my first day lesson. So I know it'll go over well. It'll be a good little lesson because they're getting so much information the first day. So they're going to prepare for the second day and the third day and the fourth day and the fifth day. They're going to understand the core base information, the foundation of Greece democracy before they get into the harder stuff. So that's why I chose to do just vocabulary, just focus on the vocabulary and pull in more resources for them to use. So they'll be really prepared for the rest of the week. And that is all for my lesson. Thank you.